Um, I'm Rachel Harding and also Rihanna Skywalker, Mayan mystic. And this is Belinda Bluebell, who is a bee shamana and a voice of the bees, who has been on a beautiful journey throughout her life of coming into being who she is
Mm-hmm.
and the magic that she brings. And this is an interview to kind of bring out a little bit more information about bee shamanism and the voice of the bees and how it is that you are helping people with this. So tell us a little bit about what is a bee shaman and what is a shamana?
A bee shamana is somebody who is connected to the bee spirit. Um, my personal experience is of being connected to my bees over a number of years and being guided by them in my work, very much so in the body work that I do. I do shamanic body work, which is Thai massage and bee energy healing, sound healing with the frequencies of the bees, which is it's a very heart-centered frequency. So when someone experiences that frequency, it's very easy for them to feel calm, and it works very beautifully on the central nervous system, helping people to feel more calm and centered. And because I already have 20 or so years experience in body work and intuition, it just felt like a really natural thing to bring the two together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have had a session with you, and
Yeah.
it is very profound. And I had sessions with you years ago because we've known each other for many years.
Mm.
And it, I had a session with you actually online when you
Mm.
tuned in for me. Um, so you're able to have a communication with the bees.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about how you do that?
I hum. I get into their frequency, and it's an ancient uh, sound. It's the sound of the universe. It was the first sound of creation, the hum. And so when I start to hum, I feel this frequency in my body, and I feel instantly connected to the bees. And when I work on clients, they say to me, I can see a giant bee. And I say, great. Not all of them say that, but certainly a couple of people have said, I can, in their third eye, they're going, wow, I can, because it's the sound of the bees, just, it's the connector. The sound is the connector to the bee spirit. It's
Mhm.
incredible. It's what, yeah, it's like the telephone line. It's like ringing up the bees.
Yeah. And they bring you amazing messages and
Mm.
very profound,
Yeah,
uh, profound and simple, and also very beautiful because you also bring some poetry through, don't you?
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's amazing. There's poetry. I just, I can channel it in an instant. If I just tune into my heart and I say to the bees, can you guide me about a certain situation, like this situation? I'm frightened, or I need some guidance, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I tune into my heart, I hum, then I get the connection, I get the online connection to the universe, and I get words, and they just come, and I write them down. I don't think about them. Phew, it's incredible, really
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very, very meaningful, very,
Mm.
every time. And
Yeah.
that's why we decided to make this recording, is because we were having these conversations, and I would be saying to you, what do the bees say about this? And what do the bees
Yeah.
say about that? And every time it was so, so amazing that we wanted to share it more with the world.
Mm.
And so that's why we're doing this recording. Uh, and yeah, let's ask, do you want to ask the bees something now?
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so today is a day of connecting to the Divine Mother,
Mm.
and tuning into that. How do the bees recommend we deepen our connection or restore our connection with Divine Mother?
What came to me is the word simplicity. Just making life more simple. Because
Slow down.
it just feels like life is too complex.
Mm.
I just know this for myself, that is something I often say to myself, is I'd much rather be in nature than inside the house.
Exactly.
You know,
It felt to me like that was, the simplicity was also slowing down.
yeah.
And I was just in the creek,
Mm.
with giant dragonflies and
Oh wow, yeah.
monarch butterflies, and just in nature,
Mm.
and losing a sense of time, as we were going to meet earlier, and just being in the moment. And I think that's how we drop in deeper to a deeper place. Yeah.
Yes.
So if simplicity is the way, then a lot of what we're doing, because our lives are increasingly more complex and more and more technology and busier, then we're going further away from her. Is that what the message is?
Yes, it saddens me really, because that feels like the way it's going.
Mm.
But on the other hand, there are a lot of people. There's still a lot of people that know that too, that are
Mm-hmm.
really engaging with nature and finding nature to be a healer,
Mm-hmm.
in, in all different ways. Especially shamans do spend a lot of time engaging with nature, connecting with nature,
Learning from nature, exactly. Yeah.
learning from nature.
And
So
I think it's about balancing that, is realizing that we have to balance it, because there's so much wisdom still in nature,
yeah,
as in you connecting to the consciousness of the bees, and bringing that wisdom in so that we can, work that into our lives
Yeah,
more and more to stay balanced.
that's what it's all about.
Mm.
It's like that infinity symbol,
Mm-hmm.
balance. That's exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, so as far as we go over here in the technology, which is amazing, and of course
Yeah,
we're using technology now,
yeah,
we have to come back to center
yeah.
and go way over into the natural world,
Mm,
and then come back to center and keep the movement back and forth. Like if we get
exactly. Yeah.
too over here, not that I imagine it'd be very bad to be totally over in nature all the time, but of course, how are we fulfilling our purpose if we are removing ourselves from life,
Mm,
in some way, bringing that information back, which is what you do when
yeah.
you're going out to the hive and relating back what's going on in nature and what that might mean for
Mm,
us.
yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
There are such tall trees by the hive. Everything's everything's massive, and there's this little hive, and there's these like, giant trees, and I look up at them and I love them. Immediately feel connected with those
How did you
trees.
choose that location?
I just knew that there were bees already there. There was already an apiary there,
Mm-hmm.
and, and I knew the beekeeper that he was the beekeeper that I was learning with. So I just said to him, "Can I put my bees with yours?" So that would just make it easier because he could help me and keep an eye on them when I went away. And it
Mm-hmm.
has just worked out really well, even though we don't see eye to eye on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Very practical and helpful in that way. And then I just keep my spiritual stuff to myself, really. He's not interested in that side of things.
Well, I remember because I'm in Sedona, Arizona, and you are in Totnes, Devon.
Yes.
You're in England, and
Yeah.
I'm in the USA, and you visited here. And
Yeah.
when you were here, you got a message that
Yeah.
your bees had died, and
Yeah.
you obviously were devastated,
Yeah, it
and you
was.
had a bit of an interesting experience with that.
Mm.
What was it that you realized at that moment when that happened?
Yeah. So I grieved for a couple of hours, and then I went to see a friend who was a beekeeper, natural beekeeper like me, and gave him a treatment, and he absolutely loved it. And then I said, "Can I go and sit with your bees?" He said, "Yeah, great." So I went and sat with his bees and had a cry, and then they just, this bee spirit just said, "Oh, don't be sad. Your bees are free, and so are you." So it's like this moment of joy and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
my spirit is connected to the bee spirits. So
wherever you are,
yeah, yeah,
and whether a hive is there or not.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And it transpired that the bees were not dead and they were fine, but it was an interesting experience. That it was kind of like an initiation, wasn't it?
yeah, definitely it was. Yeah, it was.
To bring you into awareness that your work to date and this journey of keeping bees for about 3 years, is it?
Yeah.
And all the work that led up to that
Mm,
has connected you to the bee spirit that is eternal and timeless, and
yeah.
uh, not defined by a location or a hive.
Yes. It took that event of the death of my bees to show me that. And
But they still haven't died, have they? They weren't dead when you got back,
no,
and they aren't dead now because there was nothing in the hive today.
so they left
They've moved.
because one little bee did come back. She was curious,
Yeah.
and she was flying around us as we were going through the hive. And
Probably to tell you that they are fine.
oh, that's lovely, because I hadn't even thought of that at all. At that moment, I was curious, but she was around, and Phil just said, "Oh, she's probably just coming to check if there's any more food left." And okay, that's the very practical sort of reason. But
Yes.
sure, I said, "Yeah." But now that you mention it, she was the little symbol to say that she did live there, that she was still alive, and probably the rest of them were still alive. So
Totally.
that
Yeah.
makes me even more happy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's interesting. It's interesting because we talked. We talked for a few weeks, and I remember you telling me about the wasps moving in, and then we were just really exploring how the bees, they just allowed them to move in.
They just weren't strong enough to defend themselves. If they were a small hive, a small cluster, which it could well be if a swarm moved in.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what they couldn't defend themselves. That's probably what it was.
Mm. But it was interesting how they coexisted for a while.
They did, yeah. And I watched them coexist, and I did have a lot of feelings of invasion,
Mm-hmm.
invading this sacred temple. That I looked at my hive as a sacred temple, a place of solace where I used to pray and intuit my answers for things and ideas. And there was this like wasp invasion, like, ah. But I asked them
And they're
about
a completely different consciousness, yeah?
yes, and I asked them. I said, "What's going on here?" And they uh, said their message was, "There is love in adversity." So they were still doing their hive thing
Mm-hmm.
with this adversity in there.
Yeah.
They were still
And they were still in the vibration of love. So there are these other beings, and they have a different consciousness,
yeah,
a different way of being. And to us, we could see that their way of being was destructive
yeah,
and parasitical because they were feeding on the work of the bees.
yeah,
They invaded the home that the bees had made for themselves,
yeah.
but the bees were not in a state of agitation about that,
No,
which is quite profound, isn't it?
yes, because I didn't feel agitation. No, I
Mm.
just felt like they were just carrying on. Yeah,
Yeah. But
surprised.
obviously it did come to the point because they left
Yeah,
where the situation was untenable. I
yeah,
suppose that the wasp probably devoured all that they had created
yeah,
in an unsustainable way,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they moved on, which is
yeah,
very interesting. It's a very interesting human story, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
that there are small groups of us who are trying to maybe create a sustainable way of living. And then there's another consciousness which is just not observing that. But somehow it's part of creation, which is a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting. We have a lot to learn, and sometimes it takes a little time, doesn't it? Like, you tell me something has happened, and you've got your poem, and it takes a few days for the wisdom to crystallize.
Yeah.
But it only takes you sometimes when you're doing a session. So, for instance, we spoke in January, and I was having a health situation and other circumstances, and you said, give me an hour, and you came back with an incredible message. And I believe you say you go for a walk, is that right?
Yeah. I it's called a shamanic walk, and it's a way, it's not literally a walk, but it's a shamanic practice that I do to reach into the other realms, really. Get information.
Yeah. And then in your session, so you're using the bodywork, which you have many years of experience, and you always had an amazing presence that you brought to, and a slowness which is rare, because quite often maybe in the bodywork session people are getting everything they need to get done on the body, as opposed to being like super intuitive and moving really slowly, which brings me, I'll talk about how it was for me, brings me into myself, because I can relax because things aren't moving too fast. And whilst you're doing that, you're receiving all the time in that session, and sharing that with me, which further opened me up, because each time it was so deeply resonant.
Yes, I'm quite an empath, or a body reader, let's say. So it's a whole body experience for me. So I might feel a pain somewhere, like in my arm or something, and then I know that my body's picking up a pain in your arm, for example. It's picking it up, and so I know that I need to spend a bit more time on your arm because there's a block there. And then and I feel it go. Like, and I do my thing, my sound, or whatever it is, and I feel that block go, and then it goes in my body, and I know it's gone, because I'm not feeling it anymore, and I hear the client sort of breathe deeply and kind of, I just know that that's gone, and
Right.
and that's how I work. I've got this. Yeah, I read.
Yeah.
And it's something I've always been able to do. And
in the Mayan cosmology, you are a yellow cosmic sun. And the really unusual thing about that, I'm a red cosmic skywalker. So the cosmic energy is kind of like a reflection, because whatever other being is with you, whatever energy they are, you are able to, the cosmic energy is able to reflect that energy or receive it. It's not creating another energy or becoming that energy. And then the sun is similarly like that. Just as when you're out in the sun, everything is illuminated. So you are the consciousness of it bringing a reflective illumination to the work that you do. So whatever you do, you're able to really reflect that being. They get to be totally themselves in your presence. And as you then become them, because basically that's all that's left in the room,
Yeah.
you can read all of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose
Yeah.
it's taken years to get comfortable with that, because
Yeah.
now you know what you're perceiving is not you, it's what is in your space at that moment and who you're working with.
Yeah.
And then because you have reached out to the bees and the consciousness of the bees and the Divine Mother for guidance, because you realize that you are, a channel, and that you're not having to do anything, but you're bringing the consciousness of something greater than yourself and that being, to bring about healing.
That's exactly right. You've put it so well, how I feel. It is like I disappear and I become that person. I feel what they're feeling. When they're, like I was saying just now, when they're breathing out, when they're releasing, I feel it in my body. And I feel a deep empathy for them. Sometimes I cry, when I feel they're not even started to cry yet, but I feel it, feel that. And then when it's just amazing to be seen, because that is to see it for myself, that's quite amazing, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I do.
So then when you're feeling the totality of what's going on with someone that you're working with, and then you have that access to the bees and the spirit of the bees, and the wisdom they have for what you're experiencing, you're able to translate that for us in a really beautiful way. It's so beautiful to receive guidance in the form of a poem.
Yeah.
It's like it's the best prescription.
It totally is, because I gave you a poem, didn't I? That's right. Well, they gave me a poem to give to you.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was very profound.
It was a prescription too, wasn't it?
It was directions, but in this lyrical, beautiful way. And I think that's a really beautiful beautiful thing to acknowledge, that nature does things in such a beautiful way. And so the bee spirit giving you a poem for me is just so beautiful, rather than do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
It was a list of things to do, but in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
That will stay, and it penetrates us more deeply when it's in an art form. So music or a painting or a picture or a poem seems to penetrate us a lot more. There must be more information in that than just the words.
There is. There's the cosmos. Like I feel like when I'm reading my poems, I feel like I'm drawing down the cosmos, the starlight, into my body. My whole body heats up, like a star.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened yesterday. I was in my meditation group, and at the end said, "We'll have a cup of tea," and I said, would you like to hear a poem? And they all said, "Oh yes." I stood up, and I just, by the time I'd finished, they were all looking really touched, touched deeply, like you were saying. They didn't really have words to say very much, and I was just feeling on fire. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
had to take my jumper off. I was boiling. It's like,
And getting a sense, because I'm feeling into them, feeling that what happens when we hear a poem like that is that we're taken, instead of, words, when we hear a sentence, we might be in our head.
yeah,
But a poem takes us into feel.
yes, that's it. That's what it does. Totally.
And we're like feeling that, even, it sort of like short circuits the brain
Yeah,
somehow.
that's what it does. Yeah.
And maybe that's how it ends up being so healing.
Yeah.
Those bees are smart. Very good, very good. I've got some like more obvious questions to ask you,
Okay.
seeing as we did that little exploration there.
Yeah.
But I think that how did you come across bee shamanism?
Yes. So I was dancing the Five Rhythms about 12 years ago, and my Five Rhythms teacher kept bringing in the prospectus and laying it out on the side and saying, "Oh, have a look." So eventually I did have a look, and could see there was this training in bee shamanism called the Path of Pollen, and I don't exactly remember how I decided to do it, but I I think my partner at the time was really into the idea, and supported me to go, and I just felt like I was just, yeah, it just felt like it was like a real unknown. I didn't know what shamanism was. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but it just ended up being a very amazing path to follow, because I needed a path at that time. I needed a spiritual path to follow, and I found it. Yeah.
And I remember it was definitely when you seemed to sort of step into your power.
Yeah, because I knew you at that time as well.
Yeah, before and just at the time that you discovered it. So
Oh
I
yeah,
did know
yeah.
that it was like, oh, Belinda has found her thing. And so, where does the path of pollen emanate from? Because that was a surprise to me.
Oh, Eastern Europe. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's an ancient tradition. Um, so it's yeah. 12 years ago, when I was one of the first people to do the training, and when it was brought here to the West, and it was a very hidden path.
Mhm.
So it's very private, and we weren't allowed to talk about it very much. But there is a book called The Shamanic Way of the Bee, if anyone's interested in reading it, because
Mhm.
it's a really good way of understanding about what shamanism is. And I did read the book as well, and yeah, it's an unusual training, because it's there's nothing is written down. It's an oral tradition, and it's just for women as well. And
Yes.
the training was, as in, we were 24 women, and it was like, being in a temple space,
Mm-hmm.
training in temple arts almost, like like in Greece or somewhere like that. You can imagine that's how it was. And but the practices are very private, so if someone's curious, they would have to go and train themselves. I would be able to tell you.
Yeah. But about embodiment.
It's
Yeah.
very much about embodiment. Yeah, yeah. Breath, embodiment. Yeah.
Movement and
Movement. Yeah.
it's very tantric in the true sense of the word. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Yeah.
So that was the beginning of the bees coming into your life. Yeah.
Well, at that time, they encouraged us to have bees because that would keep in our spiritual practice. That's what they said. It took a while before I got bees because I was moving all the time. So it wasn't until I moved to Top Nest that I got bees. So,
Yeah. It came together.
but getting bees did definitely deepen my spiritual practice, like really, really a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started to really get to understand some of the practices more deeply by having bees myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to ask you then um, how can we help the bees? Because it's quite it's a big story in the collective. There's a few films about how, if the bees are gone, then all of life will collapse. And it's interesting to say that with the context of what you've experienced today.
I know.
It's almost saying, don't be so ridiculous and dramatic.
Yeah.
The bees aren't going anywhere, even if they appear to be gone from some location. But there are lots of interest in the bees. So how do people help the bees?
So, firstly, you can become a beekeeper,
Mm-hmm.
natural beekeeper.
What's the difference between beekeeper and natural beekeeper? Beekeeper. Couldn't even say it.
I'd rather say bee carer because a beekeeper does keep bees and doesn't keeps them for honey, and
Mm.
keeps them for their interests. And
Mm.
whereas a natural beekeeper is more of a bee carer and um, does not intervene with the hive so much and does not just take a little bit of honey, but leaves the rest for the bees and doesn't treat with chemicals. Because
Mm-hmm.
Varroa is quite a big problem, and natural beekeepers will tend to let the bees it's the survival of the fittest. So some bees will die, but some bees, you'll know that bees in your hive are the strong ones, the ones that have survived.
Mm-hmm.
Because as with most medicines, people grow, to sort of you keep giving these chemicals to the bees, the bug just gets stronger. So
Right.
actually, I was reading in the paper online in the Times that the Varroa is quite a big problem at the moment in Britain. that just makes me think, why can't they just look at it in a more natural way?
Hmm.
Trying to,
And learn from something before you assume that you can intervene,
yeah,
because obviously lots of our interventions have been um, from ignorance. We haven't fully understood, like, yeah, exactly, you know, because there is an agenda to have a hive to
yeah,
produce honey, which means you've turned nature into a business,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you're going to try to control it.
That's what a traditional beekeeper would do. It's a business. It's how much
Yeah,
honey you can get, and um, and sort of putting in frames to be filled, and whereas a natural beekeeper will let the bees build their own way, their own beautiful geometric
mm-hmm.
maze inside the hive, and their wisdom, the way they build their comb, keeps them warmer because they've got ways of insulating themselves, and it's so wonderful, the, you know, their wisdom. And they have some, you know, some cells in the comb are bigger, some are smaller. The bigger ones are for the male bees and the smaller ones are the female bees, and then they make other cells for the queen that are bigger, and they've got it all sorted.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
know. I know exactly. They're amazing architects, and it's incredible seeing what they build.
Yeah,
The precision and the sacred geometry of it.
yeah,
And
totally.
therefore, obviously, the harmony in the hive. And then,
Yeah.
of course, it's just logical that the honey that would be created in a natural space where they're free to do what they know,
Mm.
which is eternal and timeless, and emanates from the mother, is going to be a much higher vibrational honey.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So,
Mm.
yeah, so keeping bees was one, but naturally. And then that would be a spiritual journey in a way, to bring you closer to nature, to just observe the intelligence of nature and
Yeah.
how it copes
Sure.
with problems, um, and continues to create and love.
Yeah.
But gardens too. And when you came to Sedona, you met with this young bee shaman here who had,
Mm.
we went together actually, and
Oh, yeah.
what a beautiful garden he had created.
Yeah. Loads of herbs and amazing food for the bees. He thought it all out. It's just incredible.
And it looked beautiful.
Yeah, I did.
And there was an amazing energy there, of course, because
Mm.
he said that he actually took guidance from the bees as to what to plant there. So he would tune in, like you do,
Mm. Mm.
to his bees, and they would tell him what to do. So he didn't take any ownership of having done that. He said it was all the bees.
Yeah. Yes. Um, yes.
So
So we can plant bee friendly plants, um, because if we know what to plant all year round, then bees will have food all year round, a source of food. Um, you know, right now there's lots for the bees, but as the autumn and winter draws in, there's various. It becomes less and less for them. So if we've got flowers in the garden, they can come. Um, Herbs and lavender are great for the bees all year round. I think that's an all year round one. And there's certain
what about
flowers.
people who have fear of the bees?
fear.
Have they got them confused with wasps?
Oh, yeah.
What do the bees have a message for people who may have fear of bees?
Fear of the bees. Yeah, it's well, if you watch bees, they're not really interested in you. They're just interested in the flowers.
Yes.
You get really close to them, and
Yeah.
they'd ignore you. They'll just ignore you. They're not out to sting you at all. They're just so focused on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. It's an incredible focus. Yeah.
So actually, many of these fears that people have of nature is because they've disconnected so much from nature.
Well, I just want to say, about bee-friendly plants, I want to say that the Friends of the Earth have got these kits, these bee kits. You go online. They're £15, and you get these charts about what flowers to plant in your garden and all year round, and things like that, and seeds, and it really helps you learn about the flowers, and then you're also giving money to the bees. Friends of the Earth are really championing the bees at the moment. So yeah, I can recommend that. There's a book I can really recommend by Jacqueline Freeman. It's called The Song of Increase.
The Song of Increase.
Yeah, The Song of Increase. And
wow.
It's a very she's a natural beekeeper. She's got bees in Oregon and in the States, and she's got this farm, and she's got all these Warre hives. There's a hive I've got, Top Bar Hive, and she channeled the whole book really from. She just asked the bees, how would you want me to take care of you, and they've just told her. The book's full of that information about how to take care of the bees, and it's an insight into the sort of magical properties of propolis, pollen, wax, and all the unseen things that happen in a hive. You're just reading it, and it's, for example, just saying that the male bees are the shamans of the hive, and they sing the baby bees songs of the distant songs of all the other hives that had gone before, and it's like a history, it's like a record of all the hives that had gone before, all the stories that had gone before. And this is the baby bees are in the nursery, and this is what happens. They get the song of the male bees, they get the song of the female bees as well. And the female bees song is all about what they'll do when they're born.
Wow.
All happening in this when they're little eggs, all this sound and vibration, and it's just full of things like that you just wouldn't know.
And this is exactly what we need to remember, because of course when we're conceiving or carrying a child, that we are vibrating a message to them about where they've come from and what their life will be, but people have not been aware of that.
No.
And that's a beautiful book. That's a beautiful message, and it's just another example of how profound it is to get to know these beings in this way, in a deep way, and how it translates to us
Mm.
because we're all emanating from the same source.
Yeah.
But we have the free will to have moved away from this true vibration that we are and get lost somewhat.
Yeah.
And there's been a huge explosion of awareness about animal communication.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
And I love all of those stories.
Yeah.
And there was also a beautiful film, a little, one of those little clips of a woman who had rescued a bee who I think had no wings.
That's
Perhaps
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It had no
And
wings.
she had an amazing relationship with it.
Yeah.
And I can see that nature is coming to us. And I had a baby squirrel that I rescued when I lived in Bali. It was really tiny.
Oh.
And I was a squirrel mum. And so I had this close connection with nature.
Yeah.
And this communication that we have with these beings, because they come from a group consciousness.
Yeah.
Like you tune into the spirit of the bees,
Mm.
and they have a completely different. We have these individuated consciousnesses that have got different things going on, but they are one mind in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can tune into them. It's absolutely amazing. And pretty much everyone, I believe everyone has that capacity when they're given the opportunity. Like life might slow us down enough to be able to have a 3-month hand rearing a squirrel experience, or in your case, the time to have a hive and then begin to open up this communication.
Yeah.
And it seems that nature is wanting to talk to us all the time.
Yeah.
And that most of, in my work too, most of the time, the diseases that people have, be they be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, is because they're not having communication with themselves and their essence.
Yeah, that is very true. Mm-hmm.
And when you do your sessions and you bring this communication from the bee spirit, I think it allows us to remember that we are part of something so beautiful and much bigger than us, that the bee spirit had seen deep into me at that moment, and that you were able to receive a message for me that was going to help me, is very comforting and reassuring. It sort of puts us back into the field that we are all connected into, that often when we're struggling with something, we feel very outside of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I've got a poem.
You do? Oh, great.
Remember you're connected. Remember you are love. Remember you are holy as the dove. Remember why you came here, your mission to achieve. Remember you are connected and that you will always be.
Oh, I love it. This is exactly the magic that is you.
Yeah.
So you've got a new website.
Yeah.
And it's going to be launching.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, you've spent many years actually working with people, doing body work.
Yeah.
And your intuitive work with them there. But now you're going to open it up so that people can reach you online and have sessions online. whereby you'll talk with them, connect, and it may happen instantaneously, or you may need to go and do a shamanic walk to get some medicine from the bees.
Yes.
For them, and they'll be able to have those sessions with you. And if they want to travel to Totnes, they can have a bodywork session with the bees with you. But you are also traveling and available to go to other places. And there was something else we haven't talked about, the sonic bee journeys, where you incorporate sound healing and other things. Can you talk about that a bit?
Oh yes. Last year I met a crystal sound healer and crystal bowls, and so we decided we were going to run these journeys together, and they're called Sonic Bee Journeys. And so it's a combination of crystal bowls and a journey to meet the bee spirit. So so that's basically the essence of it. And
so you're guiding them to meet the bee spirit.
She relaxes them. The bowls are so relaxing, your body just melts with the sound, and then because you're already lying down, you just stay in this amazing melted state, and then you're ready to go on a journey to meet the spirit of the hive. And so I guide you in a visualization to meet the queen bee, and it's a very sensorial journey where I describe all the steps, and then you eventually arrive in the hive, in the middle of the hive, in the center, with all the, and I have actual real sounds of bees in the center of the hive, and so you're surrounded by the sounds, and then you're invited to just be in that space with all the bees around you, and to ask a question or make a prayer. And there's time to do that, and then afterwards you're guided back out of that space. And afterwards I invite you all to make a candle out of beeswax, which is like the offer, which is the rolling it's a candle meditation, so you're rolling in your prayer or your invocation, whatever you received, and that's what you can take home and with you, that candle, and then you can light it in a ritual to manifest what you want. So that was the journey.
Very interestingly, I had met a indigenous elder wisdom keeper, a Sajant, as he calls himself, David, oh my goodness, Lion, I've forgotten his name, but he is from the Mi'kmaq people. I think they emanate from Canada, Native Americans from Canada, but he's on the east coast of the USA. And he was talking about a healing, indigenous, very ancient practice, and they call it bee's breath. And there was a woman there who had limes, and she said that the group got all around her and they did this bee's breath and healed her.
Wow.
That's amazing. And so I'm gonna invite him to talk with you. I'll send him this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll get
Oh,
some.
wow.
I'm sure that he'll be fascinated by you, and
Yeah.
likewise you by him.
Yeah.
But this this archetype of the bee is very strong, and it's all over the world,
Yes. Yes.
and obviously very much connected to nature. And so there's so much to learn.
Definitely.
So grateful for your time today,
Yes.
sharing yourself, and
Thank you.
I'm going to invite people to write to us if they have some questions that we can put to the bees the next time we get together.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to have your website below, and we're going to have the book that you recommended and other things in there so people can have those references and stay tuned for the next episode.
Hey, fantastic.
Yeah.
And
It's getting late for you over there. What time is it?